For better or worse, till death do they part. That's how we thought it would be for superstar sweethearts Nicole and Keith. But after 19 years of what seemed to be married bliss, it's all over.
The lyric that changed everything. It happened in a moment so small that most people in the crowd might have missed it. During one of his final summer performances of 2025, Keith Urban paused before singing The Fighter, a song once celebrated as a musical love letter to his wife Nicole Kidman. But this time, the words were different. Instead of the familiar line that had once melted hearts, Urban slipped in a new lyric, one that fans later said carried a tone of farewell rather than devotion. Within hours, clips began circulating online. Viewers replayed the moment frame by frame, noting the emotion behind Urban's expression. According to People magazine, Oct 2025, the altered lyrics sparked speculation that the singer was quietly acknowledging the end of his 19-year marriage, and not long after, those whispers found their confirmation. On Sept 30, 2025, Reuters officially reported that Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban had filed for divorce after nearly 2 decades together, a union once seen as unbreakable. Reuters noted the filing took place in Nashville, Tennessee, citing irreconcilable differences. To the public, it appeared to be a graceful parting, but behind that statement was a timeline hinting at months of quiet preparation. Documents later obtained by People magazine Oct 2025 showed that the couple had already finalized a parenting plan weeks before the announcement, signed Aug 29 and Sep 6, detailing how they would share custody and agree not to speak negatively about each other. It was a rare move in Hollywood divorces, a sign of two people protecting what remained of their family while their world shifted beneath them. When fans connected the timing, the changed lyric on stage, and the signed papers behind the scenes, the story took on a different meaning. To many, that moment wasn't just an artist's improvisation, it was a farewell set to music. Music outlets like Rolling Stone Australia and The Music Times highlighted how Urban's performance reflected the emotional weight of the news that followed. But for those who knew the couple's history, the lyric change wasn't about heartbreak, it was about transition. 2 careers, 2 continents, and 2 lives had slowly moved in different directions. In that moment, on that stage, Keith Urban seemed to be acknowledging something that had already been set in motion weeks before the public knew. And as Reuters later confirmed, the divorce filing was only the final step in a much longer journey. The lyric change was simply the moment the private story spilled into the public eye. Paper trail before the headlines. When the headlines finally appeared, they seemed sudden, as though the world had woken up to a story that had unfolded over. But anyone who looked closely at the legal filing saw a different truth. The groundwork had been laid quietly, weeks, even months before the public ever knew. According to Reuters, Sept 30, 2025, Nicole Kidman officially filed for divorce in Nashville, Tennessee, citing irreconcilable differences. The outlet confirmed that Keith Urban was served shortly after and that both had already agreed to a shared custody arrangement for their 2 daughters. Yet the filing was only the tip of the iceberg. Behind that formal language lay a document trail revealing how carefully the couple had prepared for this moment. Court records reviewed by People magazine Oct 2025 show that Kidman and Urban signed their parenting plan well before the official filing, Aug 20. In those papers, they promised not to speak negatively about each other in public and to complete a parenting seminar within 45 days of filing. It was a measured, dignified approach, a striking contrast to the rumor-driven chaos that so often surrounds celebrity breakup. Legal analysts told the Tennessean Oct 2025 that such early coordination signals amicable intent. Most people don't go into divorce court with a signed agreement like this. It suggests they wanted a clean process, not a fight. Behind those calm signatures was an emotional timeline that many fans missed. By late summer, Keith Urban had already moved into a separate Nashville residence, as reported by People magazine Oct. Friends quoted in that article said the separation wasn't a secret to those close to them and that the pair had been living separate lives for months. Those remarks, combined with the August documents, painted a clear picture. This was not an impulsive decision, but a carefully paced transition meant to protect their children and each other. Still, for the public, it felt like a shockwave. Fans who had followed their romance for nearly 2 decades, from the 2006 wedding to countless red carpet moments, found it hard to believe that Hollywood's most graceful couple had been walking separate paths for so long. And yet the paperwork told the story plainly. By the time Reuters published its confirmation, everything had already been settled behind closed doors. The lesson hidden in those dates is simple but powerful. Sometimes the biggest stories begin quietly in ink and signatures, long before the spotlights catch on. The public saw a headline, but the couple had already written their final chapter weeks early. The lyric switch heard around the internet. It started as a single moment on stage, a subtle change in a line that had once defined a love story. During his 2025 summer tour, Keith Urban performed The Fighter, the duet that for nearly a decade had symbolized his marriage to Nicole Kidman. But this time, something was different. The lyric that once celebrated enduring love had shifted, and fans noticed. Clips from that night flooded social media within hours. Observers pointed out the new wording, claiming that Urban replaced the line about standing by her side with something that sounded more like letting her go. Whether the change was intentional or emotional improvisation, the effect was immediate. The crowd went silent before erupting in surprise. According to People magazine Oct 2025, fans began speculating that the lyric change was Urban's quiet acknowledgement of a relationship already ending. The timing, as several outlets later noted, was uncanny. The performance came just weeks before Reuters' Sept 30, 2025 confirmed that Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban had filed for divorce, and nearly a month after People magazine revealed they'd already signed their parenting plan. Suddenly, that on-stage moment looked less like a creative decision and more like a farewell set to melody. For longtime followers of Urban's music, the emotional tone was unmistakable. Rolling Stone Australia described the performance as weighted with nostalgia, where art and personal truth briefly collided. What made it powerful wasn't what he said, but what he didn't. Between verses, his silence carried more meaning than any lyric could. That moment soon became the centerpiece of online debate. Fans dissected every movement, every glance, especially toward guitarist Maggie Ba, who had joined Urban's tour earlier that year. To insiders, it was routine stage interaction. To social media, it was a mystery. People magazine clarified there was no evidence of a personal connection beyond the professional, yet the narrative kept growing. Music critics urged caution. As Variety Oct 2025 observed, fans often project their emotions onto artists' work, especially when heartbreak is fresh. Even Urban himself later addressed the speculation, telling the Music Times Oct 24, 2025 that people shouldn't read too much into his lyric changes. They were artistic moments, not hidden confessions. Still, the symbolism was too strong to ignore. When news of the divorce broke, the lyric switch became its unofficial prelude, a quiet emotional bridge between private truth and public revelation. It wasn't the press or paperwork that broke the story to the world. It was a song and a man's voice cracking just enough to make millions wonder what was really being said. 2 homes, 1 marriage. By the time Keith Urban took the stage that summer, the truth had already been unfolding quietly behind closed doors. According to People magazine Oct 2025, friends close to the couple had known for months that they were living separately. There was no dramatic confrontation, no last-minute decision, just a gradual, almost invisible shift from shared spaces to separate ones. One source told People it wasn't a secret to anyone close to them. Keith had been staying mostly in his Nashville home, while Nicole spent more time in Los Angeles for work. Those who saw them privately described the situation as calm and deliberate. An intentional distance meant to bring clarity, not conflict. From the outside, their lives still looked perfectly synchronized. They attended the occasional event, offered polite smiles in interviews, and maintained their trademark poise. But beneath that grace was a story already transitioned. As Reuters' Sept 30, 2025 confirmed, the legal process had begun weeks earlier, and both sides had already agreed on every major detail. Court filings and parenting plans, reviewed by People magazine Oct 2025, revealed just how intentional their separation was. There were no contested assets, no public spats, only cooperation. For Kidman and Urban, separation didn't mean chaos, it meant structure. Industry observers saw their approach as rare in the modern celebrity world. An entertainment attorney told the Tennessee in Oct 2025 that their documentation read more like a business wind down than a divorce filing, a reflection of maturity and pre-planning. Each step seemed designed to keep emotion out of the headline. Even their public appearances mirrored that intention. When Kidman attended a Los Angeles charity gala solo, Online Oct 2025 noted her calm confidence, no ring, no statement, just quiet professionalism. Urban, meanwhile, kept touring, focusing interviews on his music rather than his marriage. What makes their story unusual is not how it ended, but how seamlessly it evolved. For most couples, separation comes with upheaval. For Kidman and Urban, it arrived like a soft fade, not an explosion. To those who knew them best, the space between them wasn't bitterness. It was respect. They were trying to make space for each other to breathe, one insider told People. It wasn't about walking away, it was about walking separately with dignity. And that dignity soon took written form. Hidden inside their legal documents was the clearest reflection of how they wanted to move forward. Not as enemies, but as partners in parenting. What the parenting plan really says. When the legal documents finally surfaced, they revealed something unexpected. Not anger, not resentment, but careful planning from two people determined to protect what mattered most, their children. According to People magazine Oct 2025, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's parenting plan had been signed long before the world knew about the divorce, August 29 and September. Those dates said it all. While headlines were still speculating about their relationship, the couple had already built a framework for their future. The plan itself was striking for its tone, organized, neutral, even. As reported by People magazine Sept 30, 2025, Kidman was listed as the primary residential parent, while Urban shared joint decision-making rights. Neither sought spousal support or demanded property division in public filings, suggesting those matters had already been resolved privately. One clause in particular stood out: both parents agreed not to speak negatively about each other in front of the children, or in public. That commitment, later echoed in People magazine Oct 2025, demonstrated that they weren't just ending a marriage, they were building a new kind of partnership. Legal analyst quoted by the Tennessean Oct 2025 praised it as a model of emotional maturity, noting that such clauses are rarely written so voluntarily in celebrity divorces. Even more unique was the requirement that both complete a parenting seminar within 45 days of filing. This wasn't court-mandated, it was self-imposed. It showed forethought and empathy, especially in an industry that often prizes image over introspection. There was also the matter of travel flexibility. The plan allowed both Kidman and Urban to adjust custody schedules around their demanding international careers. Instead of strict timelines, they opted for trust, a rarity that, according to experts, reflected unusually high mutual respect. For fans who once viewed them as Hollywood's most unshakable couple, these documents painted a new portrait. Not of bitterness, but of balance. Every signature reflected the same message. This wasn't a breakup meant to divide, but to reorganize. As Reuters Sept 30, 2025 confirmed, the divorce filing itself was almost anticlimactic, a single document finalizing what had already been agreed upon in full. There were no hidden battles, no last-minute surprises, just quiet order. But while their legal steps radiated peace, the public conversation was growing noisier by the day. Fans, bloggers, and tabloids were already crafting their own theories about what had really ended the marriage, stories fueled by half-truths and online whisper. The rumor mill spins up, while Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban were finalizing their divorce quietly and respectfully. The online world began doing what it does best, creating its own version of events. Within days of the Reuters Sept 30, 2025 announcement, social media threads and gossip accounts were already speculating about who or what might have come between them. The most widely circulated headline came from the Music Times Oct 8, 2025, which claimed that Urban and fellow country artist Kelsea Ballerini had grown close following their respective breakup. The piece never confirmed any relationship. Instead, it cited fan observations that the two had been spotted at the same Nashville industry events. Even within the article, the Music Times acknowledged that the information was speculative and circulating among fans, but nuance doesn't spread as fast as rumor. Across TikTok and YouTube, hundreds of videos appeared within 48 hours, dissecting tour photos and editing together side-by-side clips of Urban and Ballerini. Comments ranged from lighthearted jokes to sweeping accusation. None of it, however, had factual grounding. People magazine Oct 2025 and Variety Oct 2025 both clarified that no evidence supported the claims, and that neither Urban nor Ballerini had commented publicly. The speculation gained traction partly because of another coincidence. Urban had recently been touring with guitarist Maggie Ba, a talented young musician whose energetic performances caught fans' attention. As videos of their onstage chemistry circulated, the internet connected dots that simply weren't there. People magazine Oct 2025 clarified that Ba's role was purely professional. She was hired for her skill, not involved in any personal controversy. Still, once the idea took hold, it spread faster than any official correction. Rumors thrive in silence, one media analyst told Billboard Oct 2025. When celebrities don't explain themselves, the internet fills in the blanks, often with fiction. By mid-October, the rumor cycle had reached global entertainment outlets. Yet through it all, the legal record, as shown by Reuters and People magazine, remained unshaken. Irreconcilable differences, not scandal, were cited in the filing. No names, no accusations, no evidence of misconduct. And when the noise became too loud to ignore, Urban subtly responded. In an interview excerpt shared by the Music Times Oct 24, 2025, he urged fans not to read too much into performance moments or rumors, reminding them that art and personal life often intersect in ways audiences misinterpret. By the end of October, the story had taken on a life of its own. Online speculation continued to swirl, but verified outlets began refocusing on the facts. Two artists handling a painful transition with quiet grace. What had started as curiosity had become chaos, yet not one piece of documented evidence supported the internet's theory. The guitarist in the spotlight. When Maggie Ba joined Keith Urban's tour in early 2025, she was known within Nashville as a gifted guitarist and songwriter, not a celebrity headline. But as the divorce story grew, so did the internet's hunger for connection. Within weeks, her name became a trending topic for reasons that had little to do with her music. The spark came from that same viral concert clip, the one where Urban changed the lyric to "The Fighter." In the footage, he briefly turned toward Ba as she played the guitar riff. To seasoned musicians, it was a routine cue between performers. But once the clip reached social media, speculation spiraled. According to People magazine Oct 2025, online fans began taking screenshots, comparing body language, and claiming the moment had hidden meaning. None of those claims were substantiated. People magazine made it clear that the lyric change was a performance choice, not a personal message. The publication further emphasized that Ba was part of Urban's tour lineup as a professional musician, not a romantic interest. Still, the internet narrative was already moving faster than the facts. As comments poured in, some tabloids echoed the same speculation that had first appeared in the Music Times Oct 8, 2025, grouping Ba and Kelsea Ballerini into the same swirl of fan theory. Again, there was no evidence to support these rumors. In fact, the Music Times Oct 24, 2025, later published a follow-up in which Urban himself pushed back, saying fans shouldn't read so literally into every performance. Eventually, Ba's team addressed the speculation directly. In a short statement reported by Variety Oct 2025, her representatives reaffirmed that she was a touring guitarist and collaborator. Nothing more. They also condemned the harassment she faced online, reminding audiences that professional proximity is not proof of personal involvement. Music journalists echoed that sentiment. Billboard Oct 2025 wrote that the backlash against Ba reflected a troubling double standard for women in music, noting how female artists are often unfairly tied to male collaborators. Through it all, both Urban and Ba stayed silent, not out of guilt, but out of principle. Their shared professionalism became the quiet counterpoint to the noise. When the rumor cycle burned out, all that remained were the facts. There was never any verified relationship, never a hint of scandal in the official filings, and never a single word from either artist confirming what the internet had imagined. By late October, Reuters reaffirmed that the divorce papers made no mention of any third party. The public might have chased scandal, but the record told a different story, one of restraint, respect, and rumor mistaken for reality. And while the world debated headlines, Nicole and Keith were focused on something entirely different, rebuilding their family dynamic through silence and structure. Silence with structure. In an age where celebrity separations often explode into public spectacles, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban did something almost radical. They stayed silent. No tearful interviews, no veiled song lyrics directed at each other. No sources close to statements fed to tabloids. Instead, they let the facts and the paperwork speak for themselves. According to Reuters, Sept 30, 2025, the divorce filing was simple and restrained. Neither side sought financial compensation or custody battles, and both cited the same neutral reason: irreconcilable differences. Even People magazine Oct 2025 noted that the couple declined to provide any further statement beyond the court document. That quiet wasn't accidental, it was strategy. As one entertainment analyst told the Tennessean Oct 2025, in Hollywood, silence isn't emptiness, it's control. It stops misinformation before it starts, and that's exactly what happened. The lack of commentary left tabloids scrambling for material. Kidman and Urban's silence became its own kind of power. Their parenting plan, already signed before the news broke, served as the foundation for this calm approach. As detailed in People magazine Sept 30 2025, the agreement included mutual respect clauses, ensuring that neither would speak negatively about the other in public or in front of their children. It was a private document, but when its terms became public knowledge, it revealed the couple's true intent to manage the separation like adults, not adversaries. Even the entertainment press took notice. A report in Variety Oct 2025 described their handling of the split as a masterclass in modern celebrity privacy. The outlet pointed out that in the absence of statements, there were no contradictions, no backlash, and no emotional fallout, only professionalism. The Hollywood Reporter later echoed that sentiment, calling their quiet approach the most dramatic choice of all to make it undramatic. For fans used to high-profile breakups unfolding online in real time, this was almost disorienting. The story refused to become scandalous because neither party gave it fuel. And yet, their restraint wasn't coldness, it was structure. Both had lived long enough in the spotlight to know that sometimes, speaking less is the only way to protect what still mattered. By refusing to perform their pain for the public, Nicole and Keith shaped a new kind of narrative, one defined not by heartbreak, but by discipline. Their silence didn't erase emotion, it preserved dignity. Still, for those paying attention, signs of separation had appeared long before the paperwork or press silence. There was a gap, a quiet summer when everything looked fine from the outside, but subtle details told a different story. To understand how far back that silence stretched, we have to return to the summer of 2025, when the distance was measured not in headlines, but in days apart. The summer gap. Every story has a quiet season, a space between what the public sees and what's really happening. For Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, that season was the summer of 2025. Long before Reuters, Sept 30 2025, confirmed their official separation, subtle signs were already visible to those who looked closely. Throughout June and July, their schedules, once beautifully synchronized, began drifting in opposite directions. Urban's tour calendar kept him on the road for weeks at a time, while Kidman was in Los Angeles, finishing production on a streaming drama series. To casual observers, this distance seemed like nothing more than the demands of two thriving careers. But as People magazine Oct 2025 later reported, those close to the couple sensed a deeper shift. They weren't fighting, they were just living separately, like two professionals who had quietly accepted that things had changed. On social media, their silence began to speak louder than words. Followers noticed that their once regular posts of shared moments had slowed to a stop. Urban's feeds focused solely on music and tour dates, while Kidman's centered on film projects and philanthropy. They didn't erase the past, they simply stopped adding to it. Even in public appearances, fans began to notice small details. When Kidman attended a Los Angeles charity event in late July, E! July 2025, noted that she appeared without her wedding ring, calm, smiling, but noticeably solo. Around the same time, Rolling Stone Australia, Aug 2025, reviewed one of Urban's midsummer performances, describing his tone as haunted yet hopeful, with a setlist that leaned toward introspection rather than celebration. It wasn't until weeks later that fans began connecting those emotional performances to the timeline of the split. But by then the reality was already clear. Both stars were easing into a new rhythm, one that prioritized peace over publicity. Behind the scenes, the parenting plan was nearly complete, the living arrangements were in place, and the lawyers had already prepared the paperwork that would make it official. What looked like a sudden breakup from the outside was, in truth, a slow unwinding handled months in advance. When People magazine Oct 2025 later revealed the signed dates on the legal documents, everything lined up perfectly with that quiet summer. What fans mistook for absence was actually transition, two lives evolving privately before the world was ready to notice. By August, the decision was made, the signatures were waiting, and the next chapter was already being written. And as the summer turned to fall, Keith Urban would find himself facing something both familiar and exhausting: life on the road, and the emotional weight that came with life on tour. For Keith Urban, the stage has always been both a sanctuary and a test of endurance.
Long before his marriage made headlines, he had spoken openly about the toll that constant travel and performance could take. In older interviews with Rolling Stone Australia and Billboard, he described touring as a space where you feel alive and lonely at the same time. Those words, once seen as reflections on his craft, began to carry new meaning. That summer, as People magazine Oct 2025 reported, Urban's tour schedule became relentless, a non-stop stretch of concerts, press events, and travel. Friends quoted in the same report said he was focused but quieter than usual, adding that he seemed to be processing something personal through his music. His performances echoed that observation. Songs that once felt celebratory took on a more introspective tone. During his July concert in Denver, Rolling Stone Australia, Aug 2025, described his delivery as haunted yet hopeful, with the crowd responding in near silence, before breaking into applause. Touring, as he once admitted in interviews, has a paradox built into it. You give so much of yourself that there's nothing left when the lights go down. And in 2025, that paradox became more personal than ever. While Reuters, Sept 30, 2025, confirmed the official end of his marriage, fans watching him on stage felt they were witnessing a man saying goodbye, not just to a partner, but to a chapter of his own life. Meanwhile, Nicole Kidman's world operated on an entirely different rhythm. She was anchored in Los Angeles, balancing production duties and family life, while Urban's life revolved around planes, stages, and hotels. It was a logistical divide that no amount of love or planning could fully bridge. By late September, People magazine Oct 2025 confirmed that both had already finalized their arrangements. Proof that even as he performed under bright lights, the personal work of closure had already been completed off stage. At his final show before the official announcement, Urban paused before his encore. "This one's for the people who teach us love, even when it changes shape," he said softly. According to the Music Times Oct, the audience erupted, unaware that those words were the closest thing to a public farewell he would ever offer. Behind that line was exhaustion, not only from performing, but from carrying the weight of speculation. The road gave him distance, but it also amplified the silence that followed every show. For Keith Urban, the tour wasn't just a distraction, it was a refuge, a final act of grace, before closing a chapter that had defined nearly 2 decades of his life. And when the speculation reached its peak, it was time to separate the noise from the truth, to see what was proven, and what was simply said.
What sources say versus what's proven. By the time the divorce was finalized, the space between what people said and what the record showed had become enormous. The internet thrived on conjecture, fans dissecting lyrics, reading body language, and stitching together rumors from anonymous posts. But in the official filings and verified reporting, none of those stories existed. According to Reuters, Sept 30, 2025, the only reason listed for the divorce was irreconcilable differences. There were no allegations, no contested finances, and no mention of third parties. Legal analysts quoted by the Tennessean, Oct 2025, described the paperwork as clean, respectful, and unusually coordinated for a high-profile separation. Contrast that with the online rumor mill, which had grown louder with every day of silence. The Music Times, Oct 8, 2025, had published its now viral Grown Close headline about Urban and Kelsey Ballerini, a piece based entirely on fan observations, not confirmed sources. The outlet itself admitted the claim was unverified. Still, that didn't stop countless other blogs and social accounts from citing it as fact. In contrast, People magazine Oct 2025 and Variety Oct 2025 repeatedly emphasized that neither party had made any public statement about romantic involvement outside the marriage. There is no documentation or testimony suggesting infidelity. People wrote plainly, a statement that despite its clarity was drowned out by speculation online. Even the Music Times Oct 24, 2025 later ran a follow-up clarifying that Urban had denied the more sensational fan theories, reminding audiences not to mistake performance for confession. Yet by then, the damage of misinformation had already been done. Journalists at Variety and Billboard later dissected the situation as a case study in how celebrity narratives are built. When stars stay silent, One media editor explained, "The truth moves slower, but it's still there, buried under the noise." And indeed, the slower, quieter truth painted a very different picture. Verified outlets described not betrayal, but balance. Two people deliberately ending their marriage while protecting their family. Every credible report from Reuters to People pointed back to the same core facts: mutual respect, parental cooperation, and privacy. The sensationalism had simply filled the silence, but when the noise faded, the facts remained calm, consistent, and human. By October's end, the narrative had come full circle. There was never any confirmed affair, no public hostility, and no chaos, only an ending handled with care. And yet, for fans who had followed their story from the beginning, this quiet resolution felt strangely familiar, because they'd seen them overcome challenges before. Patterns fans bring up: whenever a public love story ends, audiences look backward, searching for patterns, parallels, or moments that might explain how something so admired quietly unraveled. With Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, those reflections came not from scandal hunters, but from longtime admirers trying to make sense of the silence. For nearly 2 decades, their relationship had been built on resilience. Urban had spoken candidly in interviews with Variety and CBS Sunday Morning about his early career struggles with addiction and how Kidman's support helped him recover. Kidman, in turn, had often called those years a lesson in grace and patience. Those statements, given years before the separation, painted a portrait of two people who had already survived challenges together. So, when Reuters Sept 30, 2025 confirmed their split, fans revisited those old interviews and began noticing something subtler, a story not of betrayal but of drift. One People magazine Oct 2025 columnist wrote, "They met each other halfway for 19 years, between her film sets and his tours, but eventually time itself pulled them apart." Across social platforms, longtime followers pointed out milestones that now seemed quietly symbolic. Fewer joint appearances, solo interviews, and the emotional tone in Urban's more recent songs. But rather than assigning blame, most fans interpreted these moments as natural evolution. Sometimes two lives grow strong in parallel, one commenter wrote under a People post, until they're simply too far apart to meet again. Cultural critics echoed that sentiment. Rolling Stone Australia, Oct 2025, published a retrospective titled The Dignified Distance, noting that the couple redefined what a celebrity breakup could look like. No public bitterness, no blame, just closure. What struck observers most was how consistent Kidman and Urban's actions were with everything they had said for years. In countless interviews, they described privacy as the cornerstone of their family life. Even their daughters were rarely photographed. By keeping their breakup quiet, they weren't changing who they were staying exactly who they had always been. For many fans, that realization softened the sting of the separation. The story stopped being about heartbreak and became something else, a testament to maturity in a culture obsessed with noise. As People magazine Oct 2025 reminded readers, the couple's parenting plan included a non-disparagement clause, a final act of unity in how they would move forward. And perhaps that's why, even in their ending, Nicole and Keith continued to inspire affection rather than division. Their story reminded audiences that endings don't always have to be dramatic to be meaningful. Because sometimes, silence doesn't mean emptiness, it means peace. When a promise becomes a plan. In the end, there were no fiery interviews, no televised confessions, just two signatures, a few carefully worded pages, and a quiet understanding between two people who once promised forever. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban began their story with vows made under the Nashville sky in 19 years later. Under that same sky, they fulfilled those vows in a different way. By keeping their separation private, respectful, and free of spectacle. According to Reuters, Sept 30, 2025, the divorce filing was brief and simple. No dramatic claims, no financial battles, just the legal phrase irreconcilable differences. Behind that line, however, lay months of preparation and mutual cooperation. People magazine Oct 2025 confirmed that their parenting plan had been finalized weeks earlier. and both parties had already agreed on joint decision-making for their daughter's future. The details were surprisingly tender. People magazine Sept 30, 2025 reported that Kidman would be the primary residential parent, while Urban would retain full visitation and shared authority. Both signed a clause promising not to speak negatively about each other. A small but powerful act that preserved dignity amid a culture addicted to conflict. Industry observers praised their approach. Variety Oct 2025 called it a study in emotional intelligence, noting that the couple's silence kept the focus on verified facts rather than speculation. The Hollywood Reporter Oct 2025 described their split as a rare demonstration of privacy as power. And the Tennessean Oct 2025 pointed out that the process was completed with no leaks, no disputes, and no trial. Even fans recognized the grace behind that restraint. Online forums and social posts shifted from shock to gratitude. Messages thanking both Kidman and Urban for showing that separation doesn't have to mean bitterness. Many described it as a love story that ended with respect, echoing Rolling Stone Australia Oct 2025's closing reflection. They didn't just end gracefully, they taught the industry what grace looks like. And perhaps that's the real legacy of their story. Love can evolve. Promises can change shape. What begins with a vow can end with a plan. One rooted not in loss, but in mutual respect. Because even when the romance fades, the humanity remains. Their story wasn't one of destruction. It was one of transformation. The paperwork may have closed a chapter, but the lesson it left behind will last far longer. In a world driven by noise, sometimes silence is the most powerful truth of all. What began as a promise became a plan, and what was once a love story became a legacy of respect.